Hey, by Spexel. Hey, curious Spexel. I'm curious about the Tokusatsu show, Kamen Rider. You mentioned the show last time, but have you watched it? Yep, the original Kamen Rider. As an extremely influential show, there is a lot of charm to it, but I unfortunately didn't enjoy it as much as I hoped. Oh, well, that's a bit disappointing to hear. What took away the enjoyment for you? Well, Kamen Rider is a very simple show, but it's also weirdly complicated, which makes it hard to explain my reasoning. Because of this, let me talk about the show first. Usually I'll talk about the title, but the title Kamen Rider doesn't explain much. Kamen means mask, and rider is just the English word. So the title literally just means masked rider, which again doesn't explain anything. So let's just look at the story. The main hero of the show is Takeshi Hongo. He is a super smart biochemistry lab student and an extremely talented motorcycle speedway rider. He does joke around at times, but generally he's a very serious guy. One day, Takeshi is abducted by an evil organization, Shocker. When Takeshi woke up, he has been surgically changed into a monster. With the help of his university professor, who was forced to help Shocker, Takeshi manages to escape from Shocker's base before being brainwashed. From there on, Takeshi pledges to use his power as a monster to destroy Shocker in order to protect the freedom of humanity. Oh, now that's an intense start for a show. How can you not enjoy a show with such an interesting premise? I'm sure that while he's protecting humanity, he's going to struggle with his tragic fate as a monster, am I right? Kind of. Kind of? What do you mean? Well, again, Kamen Rider is a really weird show. It's actually hard for me to describe anything about it without any spoilers. Well, just spill the beans already. Okay, well, if you insist, what you said about the tragic fate is exactly what the show is like. For the first 13 episodes. But the show is 98 episodes long. Oh gosh, so how are the 85 other episodes like then? Well, the story becomes much simpler and just becomes the typical good versus evil type of show. Oh, well that's disappointing. I wanted to see Takeshi struggle as a tragic monstrous hero. But it's hard to illustrate his struggle because he stops appearing after episode 13. Wait, what? He disappears from the show? Well, okay, not entirely because he comes back in episode 40. Then what happens between episode 14 and 39? Well, another guy named Hayato Ichimonji suddenly appears and he becomes the main character. Who the heck is this guy? Hayato is a cheerful guy and an athletically talented cameraman. He was also abducted by Shocker and went through the same exact surgery as Takeshi, but was saved by him before the brainwashing process. From there, Takeshi decides to go to Europe to fight Shocker and leave Japan to Hayato. So now we have two characters that could transform into pretty much an identical monstrous hero. Oh boy, so many questions are popping up in my head. I'm just confused. Why? Why did the studio have to do this? Well, it's because Takeshi's actor was severely injured during the filming of episode 9 and 10, and was told that it'll take 3 to 6 months until he could stand in front of the camera again. So then, the studio had to decide between two options. One was to kill off Takeshi and replace him with the new main character Hayato. The second option, which they ultimately decided on, was to give some kind of explanation as to why Takeshi left Japan and temporarily replace him with Hayato until Takeshi's actor fully recovers. Oh, I see. Okay then. Okay, I could accept this whole drastic story shift now. But it must have been really tough on the studio. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, but the cool thing is that Toei took this introduction of a new protagonist as an opportunity to improve the show so that it could become more popular. There's a lot of changes that they did, but I could just sum it up by saying that they made it more simple, less depressing, and more focused on the action. The changes worked out in their favor, and Kamen Rider became an extremely popular and influential show. Okay, well I was a bit disappointed to hear the story change, but it sounds like it was a result of having to take drastic measures to overcome the unfortunate accident. Well, now that you explained some parts of the story, let me ask you again. What did you not enjoy about the show? Well, the main reason is that I thought Kamen Rider became too simple from episode 14. The episodes themselves aren't bad, but they seemed underwhelming for me. But don't get me wrong though, I still like Kamen Rider, especially because of how the show respects children. Weird that you mentioned that. The primary target audience for a Tokusatsu show is young children, right? Don't they all respect children? Yeah, you're right about that, but I don't think many shows focused on children as much as Kamen Rider. I think the prime example is the team of scouts called Shonen Kamen Rider Squad, which was formed in episode 74. The squad is formed of young children, but they contribute greatly as surveillance for villainous activities of Shocker. And what's cool is that while Kamen Rider was airing, kids who are watching the show could become a member of the Shonen Kamen Rider Squad by sending mail to the magazine called Terebi Magazine and receiving an official document as a proof of membership. By the way, shonen means a little boy, but little girls could be members too, and they appear in some episodes. I guess that sounds cool in theory, but I don't think using children in a fight against an evil organization is a good idea. It sounds like they're being sent to their doom. Yeah, in terms of realism, I agree. It's quite preposterous to use children in a dangerous mission. I mean, in almost every episode of Kamen Rider, some random adult is killed, so... But that's why I think that the Shonen Kamen Rider Squad is a huge example of how, after episode 14, Kamen Rider stops being about the story and becomes a work of entertainment, in which logic and realism is thrown out to make the show more enjoyable. In some cases, I think that can be bad, but in the case of Kamen Rider, I think it's fine, because at its core, the show did what I think it intended to do, which is to give children courage to fight against fear. When I explained the summary to you, I ended it by saying that the Kamen Rider fights to protect the freedom of humanity. This is actually the same thing the narrator says at the beginning of each episode. I believe Shocker symbolizes fear, so I see Kamen Rider as a show about overcoming fear to achieve freedom. In the first 13 episodes, the show tried to illustrate this through its story by depicting the struggle of Takeshi, who turned into a monster. Even though he's now a monster, the humanity within Takeshi moves his monstrous body to fight against Shocker, which is inspiring, and it let kids know that the heroic power exists within you to fight against fear. With the Shonen Kamen Rider Squad, by showing children contributing to the fight against Shocker, it tells the children who are watching the show that they too have the power of humanity within them to fight against fear. The means might be drastically different between the two, but I think the intention of giving courage to children is still the same. Well, I understand what you're trying to say, but I honestly think that's a bit of a stretch. Well, maybe yeah, but that's how I understood the show. And this is the biggest reason why I like Kamen Rider, even if I didn't enjoy the episodes that much. No matter how bizarre of a watching experience it was, with so many things of the show changing as it went on, the show never changed at its core. Kamen Rider is ultimately a simple show, and it was a bit underwhelming for me, but it's fascinatingly weird and charming. Okay. I think I understand the general overview of the show, but we never got to discuss the characters aside from the Takeshi and Hayato, and I barely know anything about Shocker. Yeah, you're right. I'll try covering the characters in the vehicle next time. Sounds good. I'll look forward to it. Well then, take care, Bias Pixel. You too. See ya!